Okay, hello, this is Julian from Straight from a Scientist podcast, and we are here today with Mafalda, and she is studying viruses, specifically Zika, and
Yeah.
and what else? Tell me a little bit about what you are studying right now.
Hi. I'm studying how viruses evade our immune system. Yeah, basically, in organelles, more specifically in peroxisomes.
Peroxisomes. Okay, so for someone that doesn't know anything about science, what is a peroxisome?
So cells have many organs, like a body, and peroxisomes are one of those organs that a cell has, and it's mainly responsible for like metabolizing fatty acids and hydrogen peroxide.
Okay, so basically, you told me earlier when we were talking that you are studying flaviviruses in particular.
Yes.
Okay, and
Yeah.
these are Zika, West Nile, dengue.
Dengue virus, yellow fever, they're all like
Ah,
from the
okay,
same family.
they're all the same. And are they're mostly, when you hear the names of these viruses, always think of mosquitoes, right?
Yeah, they do are they are transmitted by the bite of a mosquito or a tick in case of the West Nile virus.
Ah, okay, so now Zika and dengue, can they be transferred from by other ways, or is it or the
Only
main
by
only by mosquitoes?
only by mosquitoes in the case of dengue, I think, and in Zika virus it can also be be transmitted um, by sexual intercourse.
Sexual
Yeah.
intercourse. Ah,
Yes,
okay.
because it can stay in the testes of men
I did not know
for
that
a long
actually.
period.
Now Zika, let's talk a little bit about Zika virus now. We can just dive right in. Because Zika seems to be super popular now. It's like kind of a hot topic, right?
Yeah, because no one heard about Zika for a long while, for a long time. It was discovered like in the 70s, and then there was from 2008 there was outbreak after outbreak, and then it reached South America in like 2015, and there was this big outbreak, the biggest yet in Brazil in 2016. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, you are from Portugal, right? Talk wait, before we get started, we started
Yeah.
too fast. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what your background is.
Yeah, I'm from Portugal, a bit south of Lisbon, the capital, in a place called Rábida, like me, and I studied first for undergrad cellular and molecular biology,
Wow, okay.
and then for masters I went to biopharmaceutical sciences. Yeah.
Biopharma, and where did you study the masters?
In Lisbon.
Ah, okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, also in Lisbon, and I did my
And,
master's thesis there.
and currently you are in England, right?
Yes, I'm at the University of Surrey, the immunology group, although I never had immunology in my life.
So you've been learning a lot of immunology. For me,
Yeah,
immunology was one of the most difficult classes I've taken. It's quite complicated, right?
yeah, it is because it's like a network. Everything is connected, and
Exactly.
lots of names, and this activates that, and that activates that. It's yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, but it's amazing. It's kind of a fascinating system that the human body has such a complicated, effective system for battling pathogens, right?
yeah, that's true. But I think it's even more interesting that things so small as a virus, which has like 10 proteins,
It's smart
that
enough,
can
yeah.
evade our super complex immune system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're just too smart. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So so getting back to Zika, so Zika became popular recently. But let's say today, is it still a big problem, or is kind of we kind of eradicated it or lowered the possibility?
No, I think it was a big outbreak just because no one had defenses against it because it was the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just I think it's spreading to Africa again with a new strain.
Now,
But yeah,
do we have any sort of treatment or prevention for Zika or
no, not yet. You
not
can
yet?
just treat some symptoms because it usually just gives you no symptoms at all or like flu-like symptoms, but only in more severe cases it can lead to other problems. And
Now,
also in pregnant women.
exactly, that's the big thing is pregnant women. Now, once you get Zika, do you have it forever? Is it like the herpes virus
No, you
or
don't have it forever.
you don't? Okay.
No, yeah, it passes.
So you could, let's say someone, a woman got Zika, and her body fought it off, and so she could get pregnant the year later, 1 year later, and not have to worry about the Zika virus
Yeah, I think that should be fine. In men, as I said, it stays in the testes for a few months.
for a few months after.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. Now we talked a little bit about this before the show about one of Zika's main effects is it affects neurogenesis. You want to explain to me a little bit more what you were telling me earlier?
Yeah, so Zika virus, when a pregnant woman gets infected, especially in the first trimester, then a child may be born with microcephaly, which is just like a small brain, and yeah,
Yeah, from
impaired neurogenesis, which is like the brain couldn't um, produce like the neurons and just develop as normal.
exactly. So I guess when the baby is forming, the Zika virus can lower the rate of neurogenesis, which is going to result in a smaller brain at the end of the day, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Interesting.
exactly.
Yeah, I did not know
Usually
that.
that,
So that's the big issue with Zika and pregnancy, right? Is the microcephaly.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
that's
but then the
that's
child
the
will
worst.
also have, yeah. Now will the child be born with the Zika virus as well or
I'm not sure about when it's born because so many months have gone by that time.
yeah.
Uh, but they definitely measured Zika virus in the brains of fetus. So
Yeah, and I guess it could affect the fetus for the rest of their life if they, in a critical period of neurogenesis when they have a lower level. That could be really
yeah,
dangerous. Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. So, what other questions did I have for you? Tell me a little bit what you know about the dengue virus, because this is something pretty close to home for me. I had a really close family member that actually got dengue virus.
yeah,
And it was a crazy story because he had gone to Africa for a trip, came back to the US, and he started feeling really sick. And like really sick, and he went to the hospital, went to the doctors. Nobody knew what to do. They kept doing tests, they had no idea what it was. They kept passing him around to different doctors, giving him
yeah,
IVs, and at the end of the day it took like 4 or 5 doctor visits until like a special travel clinic I think he went to, and they finally said, "Oh, you have dengue virus." So it's something that, especially in the U.S., if you have dengue, it's really difficult to diagnose, and yeah,
yeah. I
this
think you're just not. The doctors are not expecting that. So if you go, I think if you go to one like the hospital in Africa, they would
they'd be like, "Oh, you got
obviously check it
dengue
out.
the first day, right?"
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But it was rough. I remember it's a pretty brutal disease. But tell me a little bit more from your.
From dengue, it also depends. There's four types of dengue. I
Mhm.
think so. One, two, three, and four. And I'm not
Very
sure if
creative
that
names.
if there's different. I'm not sure if there's these different symptoms. I'm not very into that, but I know it can get very bad. Usually, you can not have any symptoms at all, or just like flu, but you can also bleed for like from everywhere,
Wow.
which is not, yeah.
So I guess depending, there's four different types is what you're saying, and I
Yeah,
guess
so
that some are worse than others.
yeah, I'm not sure. As I said, I'm not,
Okay.
it's not really my field, so yeah.
So if you had to choose one virus that was your field, which one would that be?
Zika is more what I'm
Zika.
into, I guess.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What else did I have? So let's talk a little bit more about Zika then, since that's your specialty. Do you think that we will ever discover any sort of vaccine or treatment for these type of viruses?
I hope so. I hope I'll do it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's something that only people just started to look at now because it was in the background for so long. And so people are, you first have to know how the virus works and the
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms and how it can shut down our immune system so you can understand what to do with that and actually design drugs for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be pretty awesome if we could make like a vaccine like for all flavivirus since they should be, they're related, right? So it would be good if you could just have one vaccine that would
But it's
go.
complicated, yeah. Like you said, there's four different types of dengue, so you might need four different types of vaccines, right, to
Yeah,
combat each one.
yeah, yeah. That's one of the problems. Yeah, because it has a big differences between one virus and another.
Exactly. So
Yes,
you're saying, do these viruses evolve and change over time, or do they stay relatively the same?
they do stay relatively the same. It's not like HIV. It's not the same problem. For example, that HIV is like
Yeah.
it's constantly mutating, but it does change like the Zika virus that we see in Brazil, that we saw in Brazil in 2016. It's not the same as it was in Cambodia some years before.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
It's
why I think that's why before we wouldn't see microcephaly. Or, yeah,
because it's a different virus, is that what you're saying? Or it's changed a little bit.
not yeah, it's just changed a little
It's the
bit.
same
Has
virus, but a little bit more advanced, or yeah,
yeah,
interesting. Now, have you ever traveled to any places where these viruses are common?
I've been to Brazil before, but way before the outbreak.
Ah, okay.
So
And you weren't worried. Yeah, but I think
I would mind
Brazil,
to go on a field expedition.
yeah, you have to talk to your boss about this. Let me go to
Yeah,
a field expedition. Now, yeah, Brazil has not just Zika. I think they also have dengue, right? And of course, malaria, but malaria is
yeah,
not
they
a
do.
flavivirus, right?
No, no,
So malaria,
it's
from my
not. It's not
understanding,
even a virus.
it's not even a virus, right? It's a
Yeah,
parasite, right?
yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Raspberry. Yeah, I'm not sure the word in English actually.
And in
I remember I had
Portuguese,
it in like virology classes in my undergrad in Portugal. So
what is it in Portuguese so our listeners can learn some Portuguese?
what malaria?
Yeah.
Malaria. It's a protozoario.
Protozoo, no?
Yeah, I don't know
Protozoario.
the
Okay.
word in English.
That happens to me now. I've been studying
Yeah,
in Spanish, and sometimes I forget words in English, or because I
yeah,
learned it in Spanish. So I'm speaking to someone in English, and then I have to all of a sudden a couple of words in Spanish to and it to, or the opposite, or
yeah. It
speaking in
happens all the
Spanish.
time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So how was it? How is it studying in English? I guess English is not your first language, although everybody that is listening to this will see that you are speaking excellently.
Thank you.
So what was your, how did you learn English? Last week we did a podcast about language learning. I don't know if you're interested at all in languages and
Yeah, I heard it.
oh, you did? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's really nice. No, it we in Portugal we have we're lucky because we have we're like our TV shows like English or American are not dubbed, so we just have subtitles.
Yeah.
So you hear English all the time, and you hear a lot of like English and American music. So
So you
that's
start at a young age kind of watching movies and listening to music and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been
basically, I remember I started being better at English when I wanted to know what the lyrics were about, and I would translate it, and
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
That's something we have a problem, in my opinion, about in the US, where people only know one language, and it's very common that you meet someone and they don't feel the need to speak other languages, or they're not
yeah.
even interested in it. So that's a problem we have.
Yeah, I think it changes the way to see culture when you go to that country. Then, if you know the language and
Exactly.
everything's different.
Well, we want to do another, definitely do another podcast on that, getting maybe a little bit more sciencey, or talking about. After that podcast, I received some messages from people asking me all kinds of crazy questions, like, do you have different personalities in different languages and things like that. So it got me. There's a lot of interesting questions that we could definitely talk about.
Yeah,
Um,
I heard that one before.
what is your opinion on that, really quickly, and then we'll get back to
Yeah,
the topic. You think we do?
I think I'm more funny in Portuguese.
This happens to me in English too. I'm not
Yeah,
very funny in Spanish.
yeah, we're not as fast.
Yeah, it takes some time,
Yeah.
processing power. Cool. So you, without exposing too much about your project, what exactly are you doing these days? What are you trying to study and to figure out? Without telling me too much, because I know
Yeah, so
you're not
it
allowed
we're
to.
I told you about peroxisomes before.
Mm-hmm.
So we are looking whether an infection by one of these flavivirus, dengue or Zika virus would um, decrease like the peroxisome numbers in the cell, because peroxisomes were found to be responsible for one of the immune responses against the virus. So
Mm-hmm.
if the virus could escape this um, by just decreasing the numbers of peroxisomes,
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
then we could target that for possible drug.
For possible treatment or drug, exactly. Wow, okay. And but so far
Yeah, so far
there's
it's
more
not
work to
going
do. Yeah.
that well. That's one of the problems in science. You never know. And yeah, because we were trying to replicate some results. So we were looking more into the mechanism of how they do this. And we were just trying to replicate the results that someone else
Exactly.
saw. And until now, we weren't able. And a year has passed by. So I'm looking at another alternative, still very interesting, but
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm still fighting for this project. I hope to see something soon.
Keep fighting, and yeah, don't give up hope.
Yeah, I
This is
know
a,
it's sometimes not easy.
yeah, this has a huge implications, I think. I mean, these viruses are a serious problem, especially in South America and Africa. I know
Yeah, they
my,
do. They
yeah,
affect so many people. Yeah, all the tropical area. And I heard that with climate change, because the mosquitoes that transmit these viruses, it's actually the same mosquito. It's gonna spread through areas it's never been before. So then these diseases will also spread.
oof. So you're saying it's going to possibly move to other countries and
Yeah,
spread depending. Yeah, I believe it. I mean, mosquitoes multiply at a rate extremely fast, at a super high rate. I
yeah.
remember whenever it rained, mosquitoes are really strange. I will talk a little bit about mosquitoes from my experience. I personally hate mosquitoes.
No
But
one
when I
likes them.
was, yeah, I hate them so much. When I was younger, I used to live in the Caribbean, in on St. John, on a small island in the Caribbean, and they had ridiculous amounts of mosquitoes. You know, you would leave the house and you just get swarmed. I remember the first couple
Yeah,
days. Every time I go there, the first couple days, I try to avoid them with everything, spraying everything, whatever, doing everything, eating garlic. I read on the internet was one thing,
yeah. I heard that too.
but it didn't work at all. You know, next day or 2 days, I just had 30, 40 bites. You know, could not um defend myself.
Yeah.
And especially the past couple of years when this whole Zika thing problem, I was, you know, it was on my mind. There was actually, I wanted to ask you, now that I talk about this without getting off topic. there was a new virus, or I'm not sure if it was new or not, but it was a new disease that was spreading called chikungunya. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, that's also a
That's a
flavivirus.
flavivirus.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all the
So
same family. They're transmitted by the same mosquito. Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
so from my understanding, chikungunya, I knew a couple people on the island that had gotten it, and they said it was terrible. You know, they were tired, their joints hurt, and it took them
Yeah.
a couple months to recover.
Months. Okay. I didn't know.
Well,
I
they told
didn't.
me that they recovered, quite fast after a couple of weeks, I guess. But then the kind of lethargy, being tired, and the joints lasted a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is crazy. So anyway, what I was going with that is that mosquitoes are crazy. They lay their eggs in fresh water, right? And they
Yeah.
can lay
There.
millions. I remember looking at you used to have like a potted plant, and once the day after it rains, you can look inside the potted plant and you'll see all the little larvae
Yeah.
of the mosquito, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a
So
lot of research going on mosquitoes too, because maybe it would be just easier to stop the mosquitoes spreading these viruses. I don't know.
I think it's impossible to just eradicate all of the mosquitoes, because then you mess with the whole food chain, and that
Yeah,
could
we
be
wouldn't.
dangerous.
I don't think we wouldn't want to do that
Yeah,
either.
we wouldn't want to do that. I mean, it certainly would be nice, but now, last question. I had another question about mosquitoes. I heard that it's either the female or the male. Only one of the mosquitoes, the one that bites you. I don't know if this is true.
I think it's the female.
You think it's the female? I'm not
Not,
sure. I'm
yeah,
not
not
sure.
sure about that,
We
but
can consult Google about this.
I guess it's a female.
It's the female. Yeah. So yeah, I remember. Oof. Now, do you know anything about how to avoid mosquitoes, garlic, or anything like that? Is there
No,
any?
it's more about what. Yeah, don't leave a bucket.
Are there
on
proven method? Yeah, this
something.
was what my dad always did. He would go around the next day and just pour out all the water, or just
Yeah,
to try
all
to
the
kill
stuff.
them before they grow up.
Yeah, just use the mosquito nets, and because there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, you kill 5, and the next day there's 20 more that have that were born.
Yeah,
So interesting. Yeah, so chikungunya, I did not know that was a flavivirus. Interesting.
yeah, same family.
Wow.
Chikungunya. I don't know much about it either, but
It's a brutal one. I remember talking to some people that had it, and it was rough. Especially the joints was something that they said the joint pain was really bad.
yeah, but I think that's the same in all of the flaviviruses. Always a symptom is joint pain.
Really? I did not know. So you're saying the flavivirus have very similar symptoms between all of them?
Kind of, because, for example, dengue doesn't affect the brain as Zika does. Because Zika, it, it may lead to microcephaly in
Exactly.
unborn children, but in adults, it can lead to also to Guillain-Barré syndrome,
I'm
which
not
basically
familiar with
you
this. Yeah.
lose myelin.
Ah, okay. Like, interesting. I have not heard of this.
Yeah,
Int-
that's autoimmune.
It's like
Uh,
a myelin cirrhosis. No. Oh, it must be similar. It's okay. Multiple sclerosis is what I was trying to say. Interesting. So yeah, that would be interesting to study from a neuroscience perspective, why and how the Zika virus is able to cross the blood-brain barrier, whereas the other viruses are not able.
yeah. Well, some are too. West Nile virus also causes encephalitis.
Encephalitis, yeah.
But yeah, I think there's something about the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, so for the people that don't know what the blood-brain barrier is, basically it's a barrier between the blood and the brain. It
Yeah.
kind of makes sure dangerous things don't enter your brain. So it's kind of like a gate, or like a wall between
Yeah, it
the
won't.
rest.
Yeah,
Exactly.
can
So
only enter what the brain wants and not.
exactly. So it's the things that can pass the blood-brain barrier have to be either transported there or really intelligent, like
Yeah.
these flaviviruses.
Yeah.
Um, Interesting. Now I know, I don't know if you know much about the herpes virus, but I have heard that it can also cross the blood-brain barrier.
I don't know. I don't know much about herpes.
Well, it's not a flavivirus. We don't have to
No,
talk about it.
it's not my specialty.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. What other questions do I have for you? Well, I don't know. I'm running out of things. So, do you see a bright future for us
For you, for
for the flavivirus
ah,
battle?
I do. I think there's a lot of stuff to be looked at, and yeah, we just need more people looking into it, and because there's also no treatment for dengue, or the vaccines that exist are not very good at it, at preventing the
Yeah.
infections. So we definitely need some drug or
We need
something that,
something.
yeah, prevents or treats these horrible viruses.
Yeah, I think it's good that, I mean, good and but not really that good that recently Zika has been put on the map because of the outbreak.
Yeah.
Because it brings a lot of money to scientists. It pushes for people to study it like you,
Hmm.
and which possibly produces cures in the future. So I think it's like a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's good that these outbreaks happen, but it's also bad because a lot of people suffer symptoms and consequences. But globally,
Yeah.
the chance of producing a vaccine or a treatment is a lot higher.
Yeah.
And it's also they don't even have a treatment for malaria. I from my
Hmm.
understanding, you can take pills for a certain amount of time, and they can
Yeah, I tried,
reduce.
and
You
they're
tried it.
horrible.
They're
They're
horrible
horrible. I have a terrible experience with
with
the
malaria pills.
anti-malaria pills. Yeah.
Bad side effects or
Yeah, so I went to Cambodia for like to volunteer. I tried, and so I got food poisoning, and then so I couldn't eat for like 2 days. But then it was the day that I should take the malaria pill,
hmm
and so I just when I took I just felt my insides were burning. It
Are you
was
serious?
horrible,
Wow.
horrible. Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's terrible.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, from my understanding, you have to take this drug for before you go to the country, and
yeah.
a small portion, I think, what, 1 or 2 weeks after you get back too. It's kind of,
Hmm. Yeah, and it's pretty strong.
and it's a strong drug. I'm sure it has
Yeah.
heavy side effects. Yeah. So we don't have any perfect solutions for any of these viruses yet.
No, not yet.
And
Could
it's
be good
crazy. Yeah,
to
because
take
they're
care of the
only,
mosquitoes
like you
because
said, yeah.
if they are the ones who transmit all of these diseases, like a mosquito can have malaria and dengue at the same time.
So
And
you could theoretically get both at the same time.
I guess so.
That's
They're
terrible.
just they're transmitted by the same kind of mosquitoes at the in the same regions. So yeah.
So we have to treat it at the mosquito level. That's a good idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of research going into that. I think there's like genetic engineered mosquitoes too. I don't know much about it.
That's interesting. So they would basically eradicate, they would make mosquitoes without destroying all of them. They would make special mosquitoes or genetically modify them like we do with dogs and animals like that, so
Yeah,
that they're not that so that they're unable to carry these viruses.
yeah.
That's a good idea. But
I don't know
then,
if it's
yeah.
not able to carry the virus, or they would die if they have the virus, which they don't because they just produce more virus inside them. They don't get sick because they have the virus.
Yeah, that would be smart actually, exactly, to kind of produce a suicide if they have the virus.
Yeah, but I think that was done. I think they did release it in Brazil or something.
Are you
I know
serious?
there's I know
Yeah.
there's a radio lab, another podcast. There's a radio lab show about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll have to check it out. I'll definitely look into that later.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Mafalda, it's been excellent to talk to you today. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Yeah.
Ask us any questions, and maybe in the future when you're finished or you have more stuff to talk about, we can chat again.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to say that
Tell
if
me.
people want to follow my work, they can always follow me in Instagram. I'm the Lab Notebook there.
Of course, yeah, we will put all her information in the show notes, so you can contact her, and if you have any questions, or you can contact us, or whatever. So we'll put all that in the show notes. So definitely, thank you very much, Mafalda. It's been an
Thank
excellent
you. It was a pleasure.
conversation. I've learned a
Yeah.
lot from you. So,
Thanks.
yep. Okay. Bye bye, folks.